Man. It has been a long time. A long time it has been. Give me one moment. Let me get this together. I don't know why I'm showing up small, but if y'all can see me, let me know okay, there we go. If y'all can see me and hear me, let me know in the comments. It's been a very long time. It's good to be back. A lot has gone on in these past, wow, it's about a month, or a month or and some change, right? Some of the things, obviously been traveling, speaking engagements, conferences, but I also had COVID, y'all. I had COVID for about a week. So I was in the bed. It was hard to be in the bed and be still because that's just not me. But it's good to be back, probably about 95% back, but it's good to be back, right? And today we're going to talk about Pinky Cole and Slutty Vegan. I know a lot of y'all have heard about everything that's gone on with her business, how she lost it and how she bought it back. And I definitely want to touch on that because I know it happened. She went live about it about a week or two ago. And it's been in the back of my mind to really jump in and dive deep and talk about it and stuff. And so here we are, right? So for those of you who know Slutty Vegan, it is a vegan food chain headquartered in Atlanta, Georgia, if I'm not mistaken, but then it has chains outside of Atlanta and Georgia. I think in New York, Jacksonville, Florida. I think Houston potentially. I'm not for sure. Let me know though in the comments. And it grew extremely quickly, right? Like in that 6 year span, I think that they started probably about 6 years ago. It grew fast. A lot of business, a lot of investors, and we'll talk about that too. But so much things happened. But I know from a lot of the things I've been reading and listening to, she also had 2 or 3 children during that time, right? So I also want to talk about that as well. Being a woman entrepreneur and juggling big business and family, because no one really talks about that from a guy perspective, right? So I definitely want to jump into that as well. But a lot of these things happen where it's like I'm juggling this big business and I'm juggling familyhood, like young children. How do I manage it all? How do I do it all? And sure, I can raise money and I can hire the right people and put them in place. But is that going to be enough as I'm stepping away from the business? Right. And she talked about that, how, you know, the corporate overhead was about $10 million. So even if you go on her LinkedIn from back in the day, I remember going on her LinkedIn and I looked at a lot of the people that she was hiring. I was like, these are some very prominent names. These are some high powered names, some people that come with a lot of experience. So I already know that if they're coming with all that experience, they're coming with that big paycheck. But hey, you raise $25 million, you have the money to pay these people that you're hiring. And so you bring them in and your corporate overhead ends up being about $10 million. So it's not the fact that you're not making money, because she was making money in her business, but her expenses were getting out of control. Right. And a lot of times, we think to ourselves, okay, if we hire these people that have these really good resumes and these backgrounds, I can just step away from the business and everything's going to be good. Right. And that's not always the case, because even though you hire people who are qualified, if we don't necessarily know how to lead them and talk about the outcomes that we're looking for, then essentially our business is in their hands and they literally have the keys to our business and they can do whatever they want if we're not on point and on top of our business, and they can make certain decisions that may not be the greatest for our business. And guess what? Our business now takes a huge dip, all because we hired people that we thought were great, which they are, but they didn't have the direction, right? They didn't have the things in place that were needed for them to say, I'm going to accelerate this business in the absence of Pinky while she's away with her children, with her family, attending to them. We got you, right? It's real easy to make decisions when you have $25 million in the bank versus when you only have $1,000, right? The decisions tend to be a lot more slower. How many of you have been in that situation or are currently in that situation where you may not have a lot of money to make the decisions that you want to, so you take more time making the decision? But if you had $25 million in your account, all of a sudden, you know what? I'll buy this, I'll buy that, I'll hire this person, I'll hire this person, I'll do all these things because I got the money. 25 million. I want y'all to, have y'all ever seen 25 million in an account? I haven't, right? So for someone, and so for someone's that we don't come from that background to where we've managed that kind of money, that's a large responsibility, y'all. And if you're not on top of your education around these things, right? If you're not getting the proper education, and a lot of times the education that we need comes from the experience, which she experienced. So if we don't have the knowledge, what do? We tend to lean on the people that we hire that are smarter than us. And that may not always be the best thing, because if we, like I said earlier, if we don't guide them in the right direction, if we don't have certain things in place to monitor the outcomes, then now what ends up happening is a bunch of money gets spent and we end up losing our business to the investors that invested in us. We've dealt with and still deal with a lot of clients that have venture capital money, right? We've helped clients raise money from venture capitalists. So we've been in those rooms. We've seen how it is. It's all good in the beginning. The money's there. I can make that decision. I can make this decision. And then the economy starts to shift your business. The way your buyers are buying from you tend to shift, like we've seen these past couple of years. And now all of a sudden, some of the decisions that we made back in the day that would hit are not hitting the same. And so now things are getting tighter. And how do you handle that? Because now the investors are breathing down your neck. Now they're like, hey, Ephraim, what's going on? We gave you $10 million. Where's the return on my investment? What is going on? I need an update. Oh, well, investor, things aren't really going too well, but don't worry, I got you next month. Nah, they ain't trying to hear that. They're trying to see, if I gave you $10 million, I need you to turn that into 20, 30, 40, $50 million. And if you can't do that, guess what? I have some things in the paperwork that will help me to take your business from you. And now it's mine. And now you have to buy it back from me. Right? So in this situation, I think those are some of the things that happen. I do want to comment on a few things, right? Because I know there are people that are probably wondering, like, if I ever get into a situation like this, how do I guard myself against, a lot of these things that could potentially happen? And I have a saying, but it's not my saying. I've heard it from other people, but smart people learn from their own mistakes, and wise people learn from other people's mistakes and their own mistakes, right? So this is a great learning lesson. And I'm happy that she's sharing this with everybody on how she lost her business and bought it back, because this could save so many different people. Some of the things that I want to see people do whenever they get into a situation like this is, you got to be on top of your financials every single day, every single week. You got to know your KPIs, the metrics. What are the most important metrics that you need to be looking at? So that way, if I hire the right people and I put them in place, I'm now managing their performance off the metrics, off the KPIs. So what are the things that I need to see happening in the business from a KPI perspective that I could easily look at and say, you know what? This isn't right. Something is wrong with what's going on here. My financials, I'm seeing them every single week. Something is wrong. I'm making money, but the expenses that I'm spending are much higher than what I'm making. And then now you have an executive, a COO, or someone on your executive team that's now telling you, well, this is what happened. This is what is causing this to shift. Right? So I can still be with my kids. I can still be a mother, and I can still manage my business from the KPIs. Right? And so this is for the people that have hired the right people and put them into place, because many of us are not able to step away from our business for a long period of time because we don't have the right people in place. We haven't hired the right people. We haven't managed them. We haven't taught them. So we don't have the ability, like she did, to step away. So I like the fact that she took the 25 million and she hired the right people. But now, what KPIs are being put in place for you to understand the performance of your business? And then we talked about the financials, right? I need to be looking at my financials every single day, but if not every single day, every single week. At that level, every single week. I need to understand what is going on in my business. How much cash has been collected? How much revenue has been generated? What's my labor for the week? What's my rent? What's my utilities? What's the marketing spend? What's my daily cash report? I need to be generating, my accountant or CFO needs to be generating a daily cash report to where I understand, okay, this is how much money has come in. This is how much money is leaving. This is how much money in the future, 1 week, is projected to come out. And this is how much money in the future 1 week is projected to come in. And a lot of times you'll see, okay, there's something off about this report. So now what does that do? That leads you to diving deeper into the numbers and saying, okay, I need to figure out what's going on. Because if I don't figure out what's going on in the next month, in the next 2 months, in the next 3 months, my business could be in serious jeopardy of going out of business. And I don't want that to happen. And a lot of times we think whenever we have an investor in our life, the investor is just going to solve everything, right? A lot of times the investor's there to give you the money and step back and watch you operate, which a lot of times that's what we want, right? Like imagine being in a place where someone invests money into you, they give you 25 million and they say, I trust your judgment. You go out there and you make this happen. I have enough money to give you 25 million, but I don't have the time to be sitting with you all day. I trust you and your judgment. So here's $25 million. Go make this world a better place. Go expand. Go do all the things that you've dreamed of. So a lot of times investors are going to do that. They're not going to be on your head. They only will get on your head whenever things start to go bad. And not every investor is the same. I do want to say that. But in my experience, I've seen situations where investors, they'll invest in your business and then they will give you the space and freedom to operate. And the goal is for you to operate in such a way that they don't even need to be on you. Because I've also seen the other side where the investors are now on top of you every single day. They're like trying to figure out what's going on. They're applying all this unnecessary pressure to you. And it just makes the whole business experience end up not being as pleasurable, as exciting, as fun as it once was when you didn't have investors. Let's talk about running a business at that level and you are a new mom, right? So with Pinky, I believe she has 3 kids. And I think her 3 kids are under the age of 5. I want you to imagine this. I want you to imagine your business blowing up. You get all this media attention. You get all this attention to your business. The lines are long. Everything is expanding. Everything is growing. And then you get an investor to give you money. And now the investor's saying, okay, take this money and expand, right? But I also just got married and I want to start a family. So now you're in a situation to where you have this big commitment to this business, but you're also trying to grow your family. You're trying to do what it takes to keep your family going. How do you juggle that? How do you juggle all that, right? Because I've been in that situation where, we've had 2 kids under, like at one point they were under the age of 5. And that was a lot. That was a lot. And you're trying to juggle the business and juggle being a father, being a mother. That is not an easy thing, right? So for a lot of you that are looking at her situation, like how in the world could she have ended up in that? Y'all, if you haven't operated at that level of business, it's really hard to understand, And if she didn't have the proper, like she had investors, but were they pouring into her from a business perspective, right? If your business is growing at such a fast rate, the chances of you keeping up with the growth, right? Being able to keep up with the growth, being able to keep up with the demands, and also keep up with learning more, right? Like your knowledge, your business is growing, but is your knowledge growing at the same level? That's a hard thing to keep up with. So I commend her for being in a situation to where she was like, you know what? I'm doing the best that I can. I'm hiring the right people. I'm putting them into place. And I'm thinking that this is going to help me to continue to grow my empire that I've created, And so I have some video that I definitely want to share with everybody around this because I thought it was really good, and I think it's going to be important to get some context. So I'm going to share my screen so that y'all can see the video and y'all can hear it, and let me know if y'all can hear it in the comments. But this talks about how she explains, right? She went on Earn Your Leisure recently and talked about her whole journey. And she explains how Slutty Vegan fell into financial crisis even after $100 million valuation. So when we say $100 million valuation, that means that they invested $25 million into her business for 25% of her business. So automatically her business is now valued at $100 million. So we're going to dive into what she had to say.
Just as far as marketing, media, press, publicity. When you think about restaurants have like a shelf life of about 2 years. And once you get into that third year, it usually gets a little rocky. But fortunately for me, I built something that the world knows, loves, and appreciates. So y'all know I went off and I had kids. While I was focused on being the mascot and the face of the brand and doing brand partnerships and doing things that I love, because as an entrepreneur, there's a point in your professional career where you have to dominate in the spaces where you do well in domination. So I did that. And we did a raise. We raised money to grow the business. We grew up to 14 locations. And that was great, right? Like we did a lot of great things.
$100 million.
Valued at $100 million. We got $25 million.
And for 25%.
Yes. And the company got valued at $100 million. So we've always made money. I had a really strong 6.5.
So this is good, right? Because she talked about how she raised $25 million and now her valuation of the business is $100 million. But then she also talked about how, she had to focus on the areas of the business that she was great at, right? Being the mascot, being the face of the brand, being the person that everyone knows Slutty Vegan, is the owner, right? So juggling that family and trying to manage all the different people that you've hired, the different departments, understanding the departments, that's a lot. That's a lot. And if you're not like it's a lot, because if your business grows beyond where you're at mentally, how do you juggle that? Because there's only so much time you have to try to figure out how to close in knowledge and where your business is. And it's one thing if you're single and you don't have any kids and you have that opportunity, that's still hard. But now you have 2 to 3 kids. Y'all like I don't think some of you may not understand everything that she had to juggle at that moment, right? So we're going to go to the next slides.
Money has always been good. That was never the issue. But what happened is our overhead got higher than the money that we were bringing in. There's some businesses that have like $100,000 bills a month. Our bills were like $1 million a month. Upwards to
for all
the locations. Mm-hmm. So when you're growing really, really fast and you got this really good thing and everybody's coming, you get sold a lot of stuff. So like there's software, there's technology, there's all of these things. So the leadership is just bringing all of this stuff in, right? And it works for what we have going on because AI is the future. But what we didn't realize is up under the hood was suffering. Back in 2023, we realized that like, okay, we got a problem. And the problem isn't today. The problem is in the future, and we got to figure it out. And again, revenue still coming in. Bringing money is not the problem and has never been the problem. It's the overhead. And I've always been public about that. Money has always been good. That was never the issue.
Okay, this is good again. This is really, really good because she said money has never been the problem for Slutty Vegan. It's the overhead. It's the expenses, managing the expenses, managing everything that needs to happen from a cost perspective has been the problem, right? And so now you're averaging about $1 million a month across all your locations. That's definitely a lot to handle. And if you don't have an accountant or if you don't have an accounting background, not saying that she doesn't have an accountant, y'all, because I know at her level she has a CFO. But the question is, how much are you leaning into your CFO? How much are you leaning into your accountant? Are you going to those meetings? Are you taking those meetings seriously? Or are you saying to yourself, I don't really want to go to the accounting meetings. I don't really want to know what's going on. I don't really want to pay attention to it. The numbers are boring. It's not exciting. I want to focus on marketing. I want to focus on sales. I want to focus on all the things that's going to help me make money for the business. And now you overlook a very, very important part of your business, right? Which is the money. I got a lot to say. Let's go to that third slide.
Brian, money is all. I talked about how my corporate overhead was $10 million, and that is high for a business of my size. But again, I ain't never grown a company before. And I stepped outside of the business temporarily to have kids and be a mom and do these things and do the marketing. But neither here nor there, this is where we are. In 2024, I came back in the company and I let go of the whole C-suite. And I came back in the company January 2024, and I'm literally like boots on the ground, no pun intended.
So you fired everybody?
Yeah, it was a combination of a lot of things, right? But overarching, like when a ship is sinking, you got to be able to start patching holes. There were so many different variables that came with it, and I had to do what was best for the business, which I realized that the business is what comes first. Cut all those things, had a couple million in real estate, started selling off the real estate, but I realized that we were too far gone. And for a couple months, I was fighting it. The conversation was like, hey, we need to put this into a restructure. I didn't want to do that. I talked about how my corporate overhead was $10 million, and that is high for a business of my size. But again, I ain't never grown a company before. And I stepped outside of the business temporarily to have kids and be a mom and do these things and do the marketing. But neither here nor there, this is where we are. In 2024, I came back in the company.
Man, this is good. This is good. Right? So some of the things that she said, 2024, she came back into the business. She let go of all the C-suite. So C-suite are pretty much the executives that she hired. When we talk about C-suite, some of the people in the C-suite would be COO, CFO, high level people that she brought in. And she didn't let go of them because she wanted to. She let go of them because the business, she had to, right? When you look at the numbers are telling you your labor is too high. Your revenue is good, but your labor is too high. We need to either reduce payroll by reducing salary, or we need to let people go, right? And she said another thing. She said the business, you got to protect the business. You have to protect the business, right? And so there's so many times that we as entrepreneurs, we will make decisions in our business too late. Your accountant is telling you, here's what I see. The data is telling me that we need to let people go potentially, or we need to cut this, cut that, but we're holding on to these things. And guess what? If you don't cut that person now, if your business is starting to trend to go under, you're going to have to cut that person anyways, right? So I'm not saying that we should be cutthroat and just let everybody go. But when the data is telling you some things, you have some hard decisions to make as a CEO. This is why you're the CEO. You have to figure out, you have to say, okay, this is where the business is going, and I don't want to let anybody go. So what do I need to do to not let anybody go? These are the things that I need to do. These are the things I need to outline to get done. But if I can't get them done in a timely manner, then I have to make some hard decisions. I might have to move out of that expensive office or that expensive warehouse that I'm in because I can't afford it right now. And I want to say this too. A lot of times when we're faced with tough decisions, whether it's moving out of something, whether it's downgrading this, whether it's letting someone go, a lot of times we act like these decisions are permanent. And these decisions are not permanent. These decisions are temporary, right? Because whenever things get back to where they used to be, guess what? You can go move back into that place. You can go hire that person again. You can go do the things that we're doing before everything went downhill. But sometimes business has its ups and its downs, and it's not always going to be up. There's going to be times where it's going to be down, and you're faced with tough decisions. But I commend her for starting a family, right? While you're building this brand, this business. It's not the easiest thing. And I know a lot of you have young children and you're in business. And if you do have, I want you to let me know in the comments, like, tell me your experience. How's that been running a business as you have young children, as you're starting your family? Even if, whether you're single or whether it's you have a spouse, it's still hard. It's not easy. Business alone by itself is extremely difficult. And now you're adding in a little one who wakes up whenever they want to, a little one that literally needs your attention. I know there's guilt, right? Because you have this business that you're trying to grow, but then you have this baby that's growing. there has to be some guilt there that you're dealing with. How do you juggle it all? Right. And I know she made a decision of, you know what, the best thing I can do is I've raised this money. Let me put these people in place and let me go be the mom and focus on the marketing. Right. And I think that was a great decision. I just think that, there should have been more of a look at the financials, more of a look at the KPIs that are going to tell you what's going on in your business so that now you can make the decisions and make the changes that need to be made. Right. So I love the fact that she's bought the business back. And I love the fact that she's learned a lot of these lessons. And so now she's going to be way, way stronger just from the experience that she's experienced. But on top of that, she's going on this journey, excuse me, of sharing all this with us so that we can learn and we can grow our businesses and not make the same decisions or mistakes that she's made. So I definitely applaud her for that. Let me read some of the comments real quick. I see Alex, what's going on? I'm surprised that a Series A investor didn't give her advisors or a board to manage that expansion. So we don't know. We don't know if she didn't get advisors, right? She probably did. You can get advisors, but are you taking the advice? Are you wanting to take the advice? Right? Or do you just want to focus? I'm not talking about her, I'm just talking about in general. Or do we just want to focus on the things that we're great at or the things that excite us, like marketing and sales? Y'all, business is bigger than just marketing and sales. Like, if that's all you can do in your business, marketing and sales, your growth is going to stunt. Excuse me. And it's going to stunt because there's so much more to the business. There's the financials, there's the people, there's the HR, there's the legal side, and there's so much more. There's the IT side. And if you don't have a working knowledge of all these things, I'm not saying that you have to be an expert, but you got to have a working knowledge of all these things and put the right people in place. Your business is going to stunt. It's not going to grow to where it can be. Right. So that's a good comment you made. On the Facebook side, we got Tony said entrepreneurship plus managing a family is a whole lot. You best believe it. My kids range from 3 to 19, and I've been an entrepreneur for 20 years. I haven't found a place of ease yet. Y'all, this is real. 20 years. Kids from 3 to 19. That's a real, this is like real life. This is real life. And it doesn't help that the tariffs and the economy, the inflation, and all these things are happening, right? So now when you feel like you've gotten to a good place of calm, then now all these things start to shift. And now you're like, oh my God, it's a roller coaster. All these things are happening. How do I manage all this? So I'm glad. Thank you for your comment, Tony. And then Ashley Small said, I feel seen. Motherhood while growing the business and trying to keep the back office up to par. It's not an easy thing. And I appreciate your comment because, I've seen situations where, we work with a lot of women, right? So I've seen situations where they have businesses that are doing extremely well. Then they have a baby and then the revenue just drops. And then once the baby gets to about 3 to 5, the revenue starts to pick back up, right? So if you are someone that is planning on having a family, how do we circumvent that from happening, right? That means that we got to figure out who to put in place. We got to figure out different systems and processes that can run without us being there. And then we got to, like I said, have KPIs. And if y'all want me to do a live around KPIs, I'll be, let me know in the comments because I wouldn't mind doing one. But these are things that, we just got to make sure that, okay, if this is what we want to do, we got to put the right things in place. Now, obviously, when it comes to business, it's deep, right? Because you have to generate revenue to hire the right people, and you have to generate consistent revenue. I'm not talking about just generate revenue for 1 month and then, like, let's say you generate 30,000 for January, then it goes to 5,000 in February, then it goes to 10,000 in March, then it goes to 1,000 in April. No. It needs to be consistent, right? That's the first thing. So our marketing needs to work to where our sales are now generating consistently. And now we have predictable revenue that's coming in. And then now, once we have that predictable revenue, we can start to hire out all the different roles to fill out the company. And now we can put the right people in place and manage the process and manage the business. It's a lot of moving pieces. Like when I think about business, it's in my head, it's real easy to understand how it works, but the execution is the hard part. Let me repeat that. Business isn't hard to understand. It's the execution, because there's so many different pieces that need to be filled. And there's so many pieces of the puzzle that need to operate holistically all together in unison at the same time for you to have a business that just explodes, right? Your marketing has to be on point, because if it's not on point, you don't have the leads to come in to buy from you. Then once you get the leads to say, you know what, I'm interested in buying from you, you have to be able to convert the leads into clients. So if your leads are not being converted into clients, that's an issue that needs to be fixed. But then once you figure those two things out and you have the money coming in, now I need to make sure that I hire the right people and put them in place and manage them and evaluate them and pour into them. And if I don't have those leadership and people skills, I got to develop that. Right. See, it goes even deeper than that, because you can hire the right people, but if your business isn't growing fast enough or big enough, now they don't have the opportunity to move up, and they're still at the same role, and they're looking for more money and more responsibility, but your business isn't big enough to help them. So what happens? They end up leaving your small business and going to the big business that can do all those things for them. Right. And so you have all these moving pieces, and if you're not on top of it, if you're not on top of your bookkeeping and accounting, your finances, your numbers, if you don't know what's going on from that perspective and you're blinded to that, oh, good luck. Good luck. Right? So this is good. I see some more comments. Valerie said, I believe they expanded too fast, and that's tricky to catch, because by the time the full extent of that shows up in the financials, it can be harder to fix. People tend to focus on top line growth and expansion and underestimate operations fulfillment. Understandably, operations is extremely tough to optimize financially and process-wise, and the payoff isn't immediately apparent. More money and growth doesn't automatically fix or make it easier either. That's valuable. Thank you for that, Valerie, right? Because a lot of times we don't focus on the operations. We're growing very quickly, but then what ends up happening is you hit a plateau. And a lot of times the plateau is because there's operational things that are not in place. Your systems and processes are broken. Your systems or your processes are too long. They're too clunky. But we're not investing the time in fixing all that. And that's one of the things that I'm doing. That's one of my Q2 sprints that I'm doing within EFS Group. I'm doing an operational audit, because we don't have a COO at the moment. So as a CEO, I have to step into that role and audit the whole company, because now what's going to end up happening is I'm going to learn more about my business that I didn't know. And secondly, I'm going to make everything, if everything goes right, make it a lot more smoother operationally. So that was a good comment. I appreciate that. Althea, good evening to you. And then Lane, how are you? She says, yes, information is all around us, but without executing what you've learned, it's only that information. That's so true. And Ashley says, Tani, congrats on 20 years. I'm glad to be in community and know I'm not alone. Balance feels impossible most days. It's challenging, y'all. It's challenging, but we can get through it. Only the strong survive. And I know for me, maybe I'm crazy, but I think entrepreneurship was meant for me, right? Like every day I'm trying to wake up and figure out what are the things that I need to do to really flip the switch, and so I can accelerate, right? And so it's like a puzzle, but I also say it's also a way of making you a better person. Entrepreneurship makes you a better person if you allow it, right? Because you have to personally develop. You have to grow in areas that you probably didn't want to grow in. Like you have to, if you are an a-hole to people, I mean, some people are a-holes and they end up growing their business, right? But for a lot of us, if you are that, you're probably not going to be able to attract the right people to work for you. And you're not going to probably be able to keep them long enough. And so now your business plateaus because of that. So how do I develop into being a better person? How do I learn how to capacity plan for my team to where I'm not just dumping all this work on them without figuring out, is this too much work or is this not enough work, right? There's a fine line between that. So there's so many things that you have to learn and get better at when it comes to entrepreneurship. But, I think it's the ultimate personal development tool, So this has been a good call. If y'all want me to do more of these, let me know. If you want me to do a part 2, let me know as well. It's good to be back, and definitely will be dropping more. Man, I appreciate y'all. Thank y'all for coming on and really listening. And if y'all need me, y'all know where to find me. I'm E from CPA on all the platforms. And until next time, we'll talk soon.